All right, we are live on YouTube as well. I don't know if I'll be able to tell how many people, if anybody watches it, but like I say, I just like experimenting with this stuff. So it's fun for me to see where I can take this. Yeah, if everyone, let's see, iPad has, if you could just go in there and rename yourself, I think you have to go up to the three dots, the more button on your iPad, and then from there you'll be able to rename yourself. That'd be nice. Welcome everyone to my class. I had about 60 people sign up for this. I got to admit people because I didn't put a code on it. My fault here. I have about 60 people that signed up for this, so a pretty good number. And we are going to get started here. Oh, got people still joining here. I think I'm going to spotlight my video. I am recording this, so it will be on my site live tomorrow. Actually, if everything goes good with YouTube, you'll actually be able to watch it yet tonight when it's done. They just put it right up there live, good to go. But on the YouTube stuff, I put ads, and so for members, you won't see any of the ads as of tomorrow. And I do have to add chapters to it, so I have chapters that I'll be adding to it. Anyway, welcome to my class on editing photos and videos with photos on the Mac. Now, we're primarily going to focus on editing functions. I'm not going to be talking about, the library and organizing your photos and things like that. If people would like that, let me know, and I can do that as well. But I thought editing photos, there's quite a bit to it. There's a lot of different options, and that can eat up an hour alone right there. On top of that, you see that I'm going to focus primarily, I am going to focus all on the Mac in this class. I try to keep my classes for about an hour, and next week I am going to be talking about editing photos, basically the same thing, and you're going to see next week that you can do a lot of what I'm going to show you tonight on the iPad and the iPhone. It's pretty close in par in what they can do. A few different things that the Mac can do outside of the iPad and iPhone, but for the most part, they're right on par with each other. So I'm going to mute everyone here, and mute and admit, and we're going to get started. Now, I did. And I made this class public. So for my members and people that know me, I'm going to apologize right now because I have to do just a little 2 or 3 minute my elevator pitch on who I am for people that are not familiar with me. Maybe they're watching on YouTube, or they just joined and they just want to kind of see what I'm about. So just bear with me a couple minutes here while I talk about myself here. So I am, there it goes, Dan Wasink from Dan's Tutorials, and admit it here. People still coming in here. Thank you for whoever turned on the transcript. So I'm Dan from danstutorials.com. I create videos for the Mac, iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, and Apple TV. I'm the owner, trainer, pretty much everything for Dan's Tutorials. I'm a one-man operation. My wife helps me out a little bit, and she's going to help me out a little bit more with the accounting. I'm getting that squared away. That's my worst. Marketing and accounting are my worst. So she has volunteered to help me out with the marketing. But basically, it's just us. I work out of my home here. I have about 30 years of publishing experience. Most of that is in magazine, probably half and half nowadays. The other half is on online publishing. I also am a former Apple genius, worked at an Apple store for about 3 years. This was about a decade ago, but for the most part, it hasn't changed, and I still have some connections over at our local retail store. And then I'm also former tech support for a couple of different schools. Just after I left Apple, I went to a local school over here, and then after a couple years ago, I also help out just part-time at and I'm still technically an employee there, but I don't do as much at a school that's about a mile away from me. They both are all Apple devices. The last school that I worked at had about 1,600 devices. So, I got my fair share of working with these things, with these Apple devices. A little bit about my site. I have about 1,800 videos on my site, and that grows on, probably about 3 or 4 videos I add a week. I also host these live classes and webinars, as you can guess. And my site has lesson tracking, so you can track your lessons. I also have an Apple News aggregator on there, so it pulls news from various sites. And then you can search for those, so Apple Insider, all that, and you can kind of use my site as the go-to, and then it'll take you over to Apple Insider or Mac CNN or 6 Colors, Daring Fireball. So you can kind of use my site as a starting point. And I redesigned my site over the holiday break, and now I'm kind of adding special interest groups in there too. I'm at the very beginning levels of it, just kind of toying with different ideas. But if you like, photography, I have a special interest group for photography. You can go there and we can start a conversation on photography. I like photography. So that's a little bit about my site. It is a membership-based site. It is member-supported. That's basically how I make a living. This is how I make a living. So if you like what you see, please check out my site. And there is a 25% discount. Just enter CLASS, CLASS. I'll mention it again at the end if you want to join. And I would appreciate it. All right, so that's about me. That's why you're not here for that. You're here for to learn about photos. So what we are going to cover here basically is the basics of how to edit a photo or video. When I talk about photos and videos, I am talking about photos. I'm talking about photos and videos. The Photos app on the Mac can also do basic video editing. It's no Final Cut Pro. I'm not talking about creating movies. I'm just talking about editing. You can trim it. You can change the color. You can apply filters to videos just like you can with the photos. And the photo side of it, videos too, you can adjust levels. There's a histogram. It's actually quite extensive, the different things that we can do with our photos. We're going to look at a few these adjustments. That's what Apple calls them. They call them adjustments. So we're going to look at those up close. We're going to see how we can add filters, can crop and straighten photos. We're going to look at how we can create a live photo. Live photos are when you have an iPhone and it takes about, I think it's about 3 seconds. Well, you can actually choose what photo you want, what frame you want to use as your photo, as well as turn it into a just standard photo. So it's no longer a live photo. I'll show you how you can do that. We're also going to take a look at how we edit videos, and then I'll just wrap up with a few tips or things that the Photos app does. So that's what we're going to cover. In between these different sections, I will be posting if someone has any questions or anything like that. So, then we can kind of keep a nice little pace going here. All right, so let's get started here. See if I got my buttons correct here. And that is not what I wanted, but there we go. All right, so we're going to first look at the basics of how to edit a photo or video in Photos. And basically what we're going to do here is just kind of take a look at the interface, where you go and edit your photos, where things are located, where some hidden tools are, things like that. So let's go over to my Mac and take a look at editing a photo. And when I say photos, don't forget I am talking about videos as well. So right now I'm in my Photos app on the Mac. I am using macOS Ventura, I should state that. So, but most of everything that I'm going to show you here will work on older versions of macOS. So if you're using macOS Monterey, Catalina, Big Sur, you're going to have access to most of these. So, and I'll try to designate, I think there's one in the top of my head where you can copy edits and apply it to another photo. That's new to editing with the Photos app with macOS Ventura. I'll point that out when we get to that. All right, so this is, basically I'm looking at my photos. I'm looking at my library here. And let's say I wanted to edit a photo. To edit a photo, basically all we have to do is just double click on it. So I'm going to double click on this photo here. And then in the upper right hand corner, you're going to see we have a couple of different tools. Now here, what I'm able to do is rotate this 90 degrees. So this is a very, very, very basic editing. If you take a photo, we've all taken it with our iPhone where it's degrees off. Well, what you're able to do is just click on this and it rotates at 90 degrees. You don't have to go into editing mode. You don't have to do anything. The other thing over here to the right is this little magic wand. This is auto enhance. What this will do is this will automatically enhance the photo. So it will allow, or Apple will go and analyze that photo and try to make it a little bit better. Now, the nice thing about this auto enhance is you can use it as a starting point. So you could auto enhance it and then you can further enhance it. So you can take it where you want to go. So as an example, this photo here, I don't know if you can see it with when we're streaming and all that, but it's a little foggy. It's not real clear over here. And when I auto enhance it, what it does is it increases the contrast a little bit and sharpens it up. Now I could just leave it like that. Looks good, but I think the saturation is just a little bit too high. So what we can now do, take that saturation down a little bit. This is what we call an adjustment. In order to edit these photos and do further adjustments, what we do is we go over to Edit here. And when I click on it, it opens up. And now what I'm able to do is edit it. When you edit it, you're going to see that we basically have three tools here. I can make adjustments. This is going to be your light adjustments, your contrast. If I scroll up, you're going to see I have black and white. I can adjust the white balance. I have my curves for people that know a little bit about photography. We have some of those tools that we have from Photoshop. So these are all called adjustments. And what I do is I go over here and make sure I click on adjust, and now I can make adjustments. We'll look at a few of these adjustments shortly. Next to that, we have our filters. With filters, what we're able to do is apply a filter. So we can make it vivid. We've seen these filters with Instagram. Vivid, cool. We can add a dramatic filter. And then we can even further adjust some of these filters. How much of that filter do we want to apply? We'll look at that when we talk about filters. And then our last option here for editing is cropping. When I click on crop, this is where I can crop and straighten. It is straightening and it is cropping. So over on the right, you're going to see I have here straighten, vertical, horizontal, and then if I want to flip it and if I want to set the aspect ratio. So when you edit a photo, basically what you're going to need to do is select if you want to adjust it, if you want to add filters to it, or if you want to crop it. When you edit a filter or edit a photo or video, what it does by default is it goes over to adjust. So even if I go over to filters here and I click on done, when I edit it, what it's going to do is go back over to adjust. So adjustments are basically the first thing that you're going to do. And like I said, remember how I said that auto enhance automatically applies? You can see these different levels here. That's because I auto enhanced it. If we turn this auto enhance off, we all go back to a straight line.
Okay, does that auto adjustment, does it apply to the entire photo?
It applies to the entire photo. It is not a selection. You'd have to, photos doesn't go into the selective territory like what you can do with Lightroom and things like that. It applies to the entire photo and that's it. So, good question.
Dan, do you calibrate your monitor for colors?
I don't. I mean, I have a non-retina. I'm not a photographer per se. I use my eye as a pretty good judgment. So no, I don't. I think if you calibrate your monitor, you won't be using photos because I used to do photo editing in my pre-press days. That's what I did as a job. And even then, it's not that you calibrate your monitor. You actually use a little pin drop here and I would measure the colors and I would look at the numbers, and that's how so no, I don't. I think calibrating, unless you're a true, if you are a photographer and you make a living at this, well, this is you're going to be using Lightroom or something like that, and I don't think calibrating monitors is that big of a deal. So for us consumers, I say. So also, when you do edit a photo, what you can do, I'm just going to make a change here. Over on the left, this is where we can compare to the original photo. So when I click on this, I can see the original. Let go, it shows me the edited photo. So now what you're able to do, just by clicking on this, is compare the photo to what the original was, so we can see any changes. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Hit the space bar. You can also revert to the original. So let's say you make a bunch of changes. I go through here and I make changes and I crop it and I'm just messing around with this thing and like, oh man, what did I do to this thing? Well, you can go over here, revert original. Apple's is what they call a lossless editing, which means it doesn't degrade you can always go back to the original. It doesn't degrade the original. So I can make these changes to it. Let's do it again here. And if I click on done, there's my photo. A year later, I look at this, it's like, ooh, what was I thinking? Kind of thing. You can go back over here, revert to the original, and you're back to your original photo that you had. I can turn it into a black and white if I apply a filter to it. Done. Come back a year later. I can revert to original. So it is a lossless editing is basically what they use. So that is the basics of how we go and edit it. Does anyone have any questions on that? Somebody said, does that revert to original include that initial auto enhance? Yes, it does include the original auto enhance. All right, and then Deborah asked about calibrating monitor. I don't calibrate the monitor. So that's, basically, we probably already knew that, but that's basically where we do all of our photo editing. I will add in here, you can go and get further tools from the App Store, and that might edit photos, edit them further. And in order to use those tools, what you do is go up to the little More button here, and from here, you can go and get other tools that will do more. And maybe that selective color, things like that, you could go to the App Store and see if there's something there for that. So, do you save your originals in a file? No, I do not. And should we have 2 copies? So I don't save it saves it automatically. Anything that I do, it just saves it automatically. Now, when you save a photo in the Photos app, what it does, I'm going to hide my photos here. The Photos app, all of your photos in the Photos app are located in this library here. So if I were to go, I have about 35,000 photos on my personal library. If I were to go to this library here, I want to say it's, it might be up to 200 gigabytes. One file, 200 gigabytes. But all of the photos are inside of this. This is actually what they call a package. And you can open up this package and see all of the photos. I don't recommend it, but it's pretty simple to do. And then you can see all the original, all of your photos and everything else. But you could also very easily break something, so you really don't want to do that. But everything is saved within this package. So if you want to save it outside of that, let's say you do your editing and you want to save it outside of that library, maybe you want to send it to someone or something like that, what you need to do is go up under File, and then you can export it as a single photo. Now you have 2 options here when you export it out. If you, let's see, did somebody, I thought somebody came in. Nope, we got everybody on. Cool. When you make an edit to a photo, you can export that edit out. That's what this first option is. So if I were to make this black and white and I export this, it's going to export the black and white photo. If I export the unmodified, what it's going to do is it's going to export the original version, the color version where I didn't make any changes to it. Now, it will not change your original photo here. It won't, all of your edits are still going to be saved. All you're doing is just exporting the unmodified version so somebody else can take a look at it or, play around with it, things like that. So you basically have two options when you export them. All right, what do I have next here? All right, what we're going to take a look at here a little closer is how we make adjustments to our photos and videos. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at, whoops, I hit the wrong button. That's actually what I want. Told you it's a new process, so bear with me. We're going to make adjustments to this photo. So what do I mean by adjustments? Well, let's take a look here. There we go. That's what I want. All right, with adjustments, what we're able to do is show a histogram, and I'll show you what the histogram does, where we can make light adjustments. This includes your brilliance, your exposure, your highlights, shadows, things like that. We can make color adjustments. So this is your saturation, your vibrance, and a cast. We've probably seen those photos where they have a blue cast to them. They look a little bit on the blue side or maybe a little bit on the yellow side. That's what's called a color cast. What we can do is we can adjust that cast. We can also make black and white adjustments. We can retouch photos, and we can reduce red eye. We also have curves and levels, which work along with the histogram. We have selective color. This might come into where you're talking about where I can make adjustments with selective color, but it's pretty good. We'll take a look at it. And then we can also set noise reduction and sharpen, and we can add vignettes. So as you can see, there's quite a bit that we can do right within the Photos app. Let's go over to my Photos app. That should disappear here soon. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go back over to my library, and I have some albums here. Whoops, you're not looking at it. There we go. And I need to admit someone here. Welcome, Steve. Well, somebody else there too. There we go. All right. So I have some albums here where I put some photos in here that we can make adjustments to. So let's first look at these here. So this was down in Mexico, and what I would like to do, this photo here, if we look at it, it doesn't have a lot of contrast. Maybe it's a little washed out. So what I want to do is I want to make adjustments to it. Now what I could do is just go up to the Auto Enhance, and you can see it already did a pretty good job. I'm going to turn it back off, and you can see that it's just a little bit brighter there. So Auto Enhance really does, I say I use it 50% of the time. Sometimes I think it oversaturates things, but in this case it worked out really well. But now what I'm able to do is go over here to edit, and I'm able to make further adjustments. So let's take a look at some of these. We're first going to take a look at the histogram. The histogram is basically, I'm going to try to get a little, not too deep with photography, but basically when we're looking at a photograph, we have a color spectrum in here. And a perfect photo is going to have the colors all the way to the brightness, lightness, highlights is what they call it, all the way over to where your shadows are. This is your darker colors. If you have in the histogram here, what I am doing is this photo is not a good photo because if we look here, all of my detail is in about 50% of the photo. So I'm not using that spectrum to its fullest extent. This is what when they look at the light meter and all that kind of stuff, that's what they're doing. Well, what we can do is we can kind of fix that a little bit. If I turn off my Auto Enhance, you're going to see that it got narrower. So the narrower it gets, the less detail or more compressed that detail is. So what we want to do is we just kind of want to spread that out so we get more detail over in some of these other areas here. And when I go to Auto Enhance here, watch this area here. You're going to see it's just going to spread out just a little bit, which means it's pulling more detail. It's just a little bit. It also shifted it over to the highlights. It made it a little bit brighter. we can see it's in the middle here. And then when I turn this on, it's going to shift. Let's see, shift. I got to make sure my hands are going the right direction. It's going to shift. It's going to shift that way, which is where the highlights are, the brightness, the lighter colors. So when I click on it, we can see it shifted and the photo is a little bit brighter. So a histogram can kind of tell us what, the balance of the colors in a photo. That's all it does. It doesn't, we can't make any adjustments to it per se. We can through here, and then we can kind of see what it does through here. But this, I can't do anything here with this. All it is just a visual indication. So we can see that this is washed out. This is really light. And if we look, all my colors are in the top 50% over towards a highlight. So when I click Auto Enhance, we can see that it moves it down a little bit because it's adding more shadow in there. So a perfect photo, let's see if I have a perfect photo. That one. This one, what you're going to see with this one, there's a lot of darks in here, right? And this is actually how I wanted it. But if we look, there's a lot of darks in here. Take a look at this histogram. It's all on the shadow side. I do not have much light in there at all. So this histogram kind of tells us exactly, what's going on with the photo. I think I have a pretty good photo in here. This one might be pretty good. Yeah, we can see we have a nice balance there. It's all the way across the spectrum. So I have good detail in my highlights, the whites. It's not just white. It's going to be a little bit of gray in there. And I'm going to have good detail in my shadows in the dark areas. Unlike this one here. No detail in the shadows. It's all, basically, and there's not going to be a lot of detail in the highlights here. So that's what the histogram tells us. It's just a visual indication. Now, below that, we have all these different, let me close these up here. When you first look at your photos here, we have here light. Now, this is the lightness of the photo. So let's go to a different photo here. We're going to go to this lizard here. And, it's pretty good here. I got some nice detail. I'm missing a little bit over here on the highlight side. Now, what I could do is I could just go over here to the light, and I can drag this up. And you're going to see that it's pulling. Look at that histogram. Now, if I go too far, you're going to see it just blows it out. You're going to see that I'm missing detail because it peaked out there. So I went too far. So you just want to go, where you right about there, I'd say. And that is, just pulling the light as a general light exposure. But you're going to see that we have more options here. A lot of people miss this. When I go to options, I'm able to go and adjust the shadows, the contrast, black point, add a little more contrast there where my highlights are, the brilliance. So we actually have more details here. On top of that, how Auto Enhance, this just takes a look at the photo overall. We also have Auto Enhance for all of our different adjustments. If we look, you're going to see we have auto here. I click on this. What this is going to do is only Auto Enhance my light adjustment. It's not going to touch my black and white or my retouch or my color or anything else like that. So I click on auto, and all it did was just adjust light here. So if everything else is going to be zeroed out. Just the light here. Now, if I want to undo that, I can just turn it off to compare it. So you can layer these things. So now I have auto, and I can turn off these individual layers, and I can undo them. So let's say I didn't like that, I can undo it. So in addition to making these adjustments, what we're able to do is fine-tune it and compare specific adjustments that are on and off. So it's just not a simple over here. This is just an overall compared to all of my edits, where this allows me to turn on and off the individual adjustments. So we have color here, and with color, this is where I can adjust my saturation, my vibrance. You're going to see that it put the saturation up there a little bit. So I can back that down a little bit if I wanted to. Again, Auto Enhance was on. it added that, and now what I'm able to do is back it down. It's a matter of preference. In some photos, I just think it oversaturates to me. And now what I'm able to do is just back that down a little bit. Leave all the other adjustments on, but I can back down the saturation. We have our black and white. This is where I can go and adjust black and white. And if I want to turn this off, I can turn that off. We also have retouch. Now with retouch, what we're able to do is retouch parts of a photo. Now this is not like we've probably all seen the Google ad where, it looks at a photo and it can take people out in the background. Technically, this can do that, but I wouldn't use it for that. It's really not designed for that. What I think this is designed for is what they call dust and scratches. Back in my Photoshop days, little blemishes in a photo. So when we look at this photo here, this is a friend of mine's, Harley. Pretty nice photo, but if we look, I got this little blemish here. I sure would like to take that out. This is where retouch can come in. I click on Edit, and when you use some of these tools, what you're going to want to do is you're going to see that we have a brush size here. Can you see that? Not my blue halo, but the one that's going around it. That is the brush size. You want to make the brush size just about the size of what you want to remove. So you're going to see that yellow, that white ring inside my blue ring is just about the size of that. So now what I can do is I can take this and I just go like that a little bit. We want to keep it to a minimum. And lo and behold, it took that out. So yes, it will take people out, but it's questionable if it does a good job sometimes. So we have this blemish here. What I'm going to do is zoom in. You definitely want to zoom in when you do it. And I just make that a little bit smaller, and I just go like that. And now, when we zoom out, those two blemishes are gone. So retouch is great for things like that. Now, I do have a photo with some people in it. Let's see here, where is it? And I'll show you what happens. I thought I had a photo in, I know I do. This one. Edit. Oh, not that one. All right. I guess I don't have it. Well, we can do this one. All right, so I got this shell here, and what I would like to do is take this out. Now watch what happens with a larger object like that. So I go to retouch here, and we're going to adjust my size here. You can kind of, if you zoom in there, you can kind of see it still looks like there's a little bit of a rock there. With larger objects, and now you can definitely see that the photo, you can just see something was there. So you just have to, undo it, and then try it again. In some cases, you can get a really good, you just have to play around with it. But like I say, I think it works great for little blemishes, not so great if you want to take objects out, such as people or automobiles or whatever, like what Google is touting in their new Pixel phone. It doesn't do anything like that. Who knows? Hopefully Apple will play catch-up and it will do that, but right now it doesn't do that. All right, let's go back over to my adjustments and see what other adjustments we have here. Just go to my friendly old lizard there. All right, we have red eye. With red eye, actually we're going to go to my wife and I. And if we look, she has red eye. So what we're able to do is reduce that. This is what Apple calls it. They call it reduce the red eye. It's not that you're getting rid of it, you're just reducing it. Although in most cases, it should get rid of it. Click on Edit. And when we go to red eye, what you want to do, you could click on Auto, and sometimes this will work. We're going to see if this works. It found her pupils, and you can see it worked. But in some cases, it might not work. It can't find all of the pupils. So what you can also do is manually. Now, we don't really run into the red eye too much anymore. Red eye is caused by the flash going off, and it's actually the light reflecting off the blood vessels, off the back of your eye. Well, now with these cameras, they have low light and all that. We hardly ever use a flash. So we don't get too much red eye anymore. But for those older photos, or if you do have red eye, what you can do is go in here and adjust the size, like what we did when we retouched it. We want to get it just the size of the pupil. And then click in there, we can see it got rid of it. Click in here, it got rid of it. Sometimes you might have to click a couple of times, you might have to undo it, but this worked out pretty well here. And now, no longer red eye. What else do we have here? Let's go to a different photo. Yeah. Edit. And white balance. Now with white balance, yeah.
A quick question, Mike Gerber here.
Yeah.
On the red, I was just teasing the group that in the picture it looks like you have a red nose.
Yes. Yes.
Like can you use, or will you talk about what about fixing skin? Can you use a tool to adjust skin color?
No, well, I'll get to that. That is that's coming up with selective color. You can, but well, we'll see. We'll play around. We'll see if we can get my sunburned nose.
Rob, sunburn. If I want to go and kind of spice it up a little, there is a way of doing it to make it more.
Possibly.
Yeah.
We'll see. So with white balance, the adjustments part is going to be my longest part of this whole thing, because it's just a lot of stuff that you can do in here. With white balance, what every photograph, basically, the way that I was taught was, this is when I was in pre-press and we scanned photos, and basically every photo, it has all of the color information in it, but if it's the way that they describe text. Described it this way. You have your tree of colors, and then you have the trunk. And if that trunk is straight up and down, all the colors are in balance. But if that tree is leaning this way a little bit, all of the colors are going to be over here. Well, what happens when we straighten out a tree? It just like that, and everything's all in balance again. Well, that's the same thing with what we're doing when we do a neutral gray. We're leaning in the trunk of that tray. So how are we doing that? Well, neutral gray, by, I don't know, the rules of photography, I guess you could say, the neutral gray is where everything, if I have a photo and there is something in that photo that is gray, neutral gray, basically what it does is it straightens out that tree. So I have to tell that photo, this particular piece is gray. You may have seen it with photographers where they have a gray strip along a photo. That's what they're doing. They're using their gray strip to straighten out all of the colors, to balance the colors. So that's what we're able to do, excuse me, with photos. I can take this little pin dropper here, and what I'm able to do is click on whatever is gray, and again, zoom. I click on whatever is gray here, and when I do, what it will do is it'll pull everything, it'll straighten out that tree, and all your colors will be in balance. So I'm going to, did I click? I don't know if I clicked. Wrong one. White balance. Oh, I can do this. All right, we're going to go a little wild here. Let's go there. You can see that the color changed. I click over this yellow part of his skin. That's not gray, so watch what happens. It pulls if everything is not right. But if I go and click on something that is gray, I'll go with, let's see here, white balance. I need the little eyedropper. We'll go there. So I picked on something that was a little bit more gray, and now we can see it pulled it back in. So this is a way that you can fix what they call casting. It's casting. It's leaning towards one color or another color. Another way that you can fix casting is under color, you're going to see cast. So I can take this slider, and you can see there's adding more yellow to it. There it's taken out yellow. If this picture had a little bit of a blue cast to it, it would add more blue, it would remove blue. So that's how you can, kind of balance. The best way, though, is taking, if you have a spot on the photo with gray, if you don't have a spot with gray, then you can't do it. But basically, if you have a spot on the photo that is neutral gray, kind of like what my shirt is here, click on it, and then what it will do is it will kind of try to pull all those colors in balance. And that's Photoshop kind of thing, and here we have it in photos. We also can adjust our curves. With our curves, if we look here, it's telling me where all the colors are. If you watch those curves there, you can see they're dancing around as I'm dragging this around. So I go, whoops, go, let's take. There you can see that little dot. You're going to see a little dot here. As I drag my cursor around, so the lighters are going to the right, and I have most of my detail. That's why we have that peak there. I have most of my detail in this rock. Well, if we look, you're going to see that this rock is over here. If I, that's why most of that detail is in that rock. The least amount of detail is going to be, I don't have a lot of white in here. That's why there's no white over here. So this kind of tells us where things are. If I really want to get funky, I can go and change these curves around. So if you really want to play around with it, you could just go and, I need a little more red in there, a little more green in there. You can really play around with it. Something that most people probably won't do. Levels, same kind of thing. What I'm able to do is see where my levels are, how much, color level and all that. Here's the selective color. So let's go back over to me where I have that sunburned nose. Let's see here. That was red eye. We were on a cruise with this. Oops. So when I go over to selective color, what I'm able to do is take this little pin dropper here, and I click on the color. And now what I'm able to do is change, oops, let's try it again. Undo. Color. It's changing. Yeah, see, it's a global change. It's not, I can't do a selective like what Chris and Mike, I think, were requesting is I can't just say, just do it on my nose. What I'm doing is I am taking, let's say this blue in my shirt. If I take that, I click on it. Now what I'm able to do is in the whole photo, wherever that blue is, what I'm able to do is change that colors. So I can change the skin tone, Mike, but it's going to change the skin tone of everything, wherever that color is in the photo, not just on my nose. Does that make sense?
Mostly with photographers is you want to get your skin tone color right.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else then, and it depends what time of day. If it's
right.
late afternoon, it's going to,
yep.
You got to change your skin tone, everything else. So yeah, that's
the
biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that won't work then for your skin with the sunburn.
No, nope, it will not. All I can do is kind of desaturate my nose, but it's going to desaturate everything else of that color. So,
Dan, if I was a professional like wedding picture taking guy, would Lightroom do that? Or
yes,
some other
yeah. If you were, you wouldn't be using photos for some. Yes, because what I'd be able to do in Lightroom is I'd be able to. You can kind of see it. I did desaturate my nose there, but also my whole face went desaturated there a little bit. And the way I'll show how I did that. Let's see here. Let's revert to original. And what I did here is I clicked on my nose. It picked up that color. And then I went over here to saturation. And you can see it's desaturating, but it's also desaturating Beth a little bit. So now what I can do is go over here and take her and put the color back in her. And hopefully it won't put too much color back in me. You kind of have to play around with that. But with Lightroom, what you would be able to do is I would be able to draw a little lasso around here, and then it would only affect that color, and it'll feather it out so it's not just a hard, like all of a sudden it looks like I have a fake nose or something like that. But Photos doesn't do anything like that. If you're into that kind of photography, you're not using
Oh.
photos.
Dan, when you go and you were doing the little dots or taking things out of the sky or whatever, don't you mesh in the sky to kind of cover a blemish of a bird or whatever? And couldn't you do that? Couldn't I go and take a clear part of your skin and color it over that? You see what I'm saying?
No, it doesn't. So that is what they call a rubber stamp tool. This
Right.
Photos doesn't have that.
Oh,
So
okay.
what you're talking about, I think, is Photoshop. What I'm able to do is hold down the Option key. I click here, and I can take that and paint it up here, or paint that color or that style. Or yeah, it doesn't do anything like that. So it's very, very basic when it comes to this kind of stuff. So yeah, you'd have to go to Pixelmator. I believe we'll do that. Acorn, any kind of image editing will do that. But for like I say, I personally just use photos for everything. I don't play around with that too much. And my thing is what I try to do is try to get a pretty good photo from the onset, and if you can do that, it makes the post editing a lot easier. So, all right. Let's see where. Oh, let's go back over to edit here. So where I was at.
Dan, Beth is too beautiful for you to need anything else. She's perfect.
What's that?
I said Beth is too beautiful for you to need any sophisticated.
Oh,
photo
true.
editing.
Right. That's right. Right. We can also reduce any noise. So this is good for low light photos. If you have a low light photo, sometimes noise is introduced in there because digital cameras can't quite capture that dark area. They're getting better, but and the iPhone has a noise reduction built in it. But from here, what I'm able to do is go in here and adjust the amount of noise that I want to reduce it to. I can sharpen a photo, and we can set the intensity, the edges, the fall off. And then this is one that I use quite a bit, the vignette. And I'll show you another shot here where it comes in a couple shots. So this is in St. Martin. We were at the airport, right there above the beach. And I'm a big fan of vignettes. And here's why. When I go and edit this, I'm going to just auto-enhance, brighten it up a little bit. And now when I go down to vignette, what vignette will do is it'll just put a little bit of a darker border around all of the edges, and it'll put the focus on that jet. So I'm going to vignette down here. Oops, try it again. Vignette. Come on, you can do it. Auto, there it is. And now I'm actually going to go really extreme so you can kind of see what it's doing. Can you see what it's doing there? It's putting the focus. That's a little extreme for me. I like to have a little bit subtle, but it just kind of puts the focus on your subject there. Your subject is in the middle of the photo. Another good example is this tulip here. And when I go and add a vignette, we can see it just kind of puts, I'll go before and after. There's before. And there's after. It just kind of puts a little bit of a focus, like looking at that tulip. And that might be a little bit too much. So what you can do is you can go down here and just back it off. I like things to be a little subtle. And now I have a nice vignette. It doesn't affect the tulip itself, but what it is doing is it's putting a nice little vignette around the edges of it. Let's see here. What is that? If you want to reset all of your adjustments, you can do that. What this will do when you revert to the original, what it's going to do is it's going to revert any cropping, anything that you've done to it, any filters that you've applied to it. Well, let's say you just wanted to revert, you just want to go back to the beginning with your adjustments, not with your cropping or anything like that. Well, that's what this does. And also, don't forget, you can also turn these on and off individually. So as you can see, the adjustments with the Photos app, a lot of these are hidden. You click on the little caret. This is what this is called, a caret. And you can make further adjustments. You can actually just take this little slider, go across it, and then you can go individually and, you know, just kind of tweak it out. Every photo is going to be different. Let's see here. What do I have? Oh, here's a fun one. And then we'll end with this. So this looks pretty dark here, right? There's actually a little bit of detail in there, but if we look here, so remember, this is the shadows. On the left side is all my shadows. If we look, because it's peeking up here, there's actually detail in there, but I don't see any detail. It's there, I just don't see it. So how can you see that? Well, watch what happens when I make some light adjustments here. You're going to see it's spreading out here, so my detail is getting more defined, and all of a sudden, we can see detail in there. Now, I don't know if this really works for this kind of photo. This was a sunrise photo. This was in the Dominican Republic, so the sun was rising there. But that is a good photo where you can actually kind of see what's happening. I do not have a lot of detail in the highlights, so there's no detail in this bright area here. But I have detail here. It's there. What I have to do is I just have to pull it out. So I just, you know, kind of, whoop, wrong one. What I have to do is I have to pull that out, and now I can see that detail. Now, if you are in Lightroom, you could just select this, and then it wouldn't affect all this, but it would affect this. That's the advantage of going to a professional editing program. But Photos does a pretty good job just from the get-go, you know, kind of thing. And I personally, this was a sunrise photo, so I don't really want to, I like that silhouette kind of look there. So I don't mind not having that detail there. That was not my purpose to get detail. Anyone have any questions on adjustment?
This is Archer Yates. I've got a question.
Yeah.
I noticed it was shot in RAW.
Yeah.
So what will happen if you use Pro RAW on this particular picture?
Well, this photo wasn't taken with Pro RAW. It was taken before. Actually, this might have been taken. This might have been taken with my Panasonic camera, which is RAW. Pro RAW is something that Apple introduced, and so for those of you that don't know what the difference between RAW and JPEG and all this kind of stuff, when you take a photo with a camera, iPhone, Panasonic, Canon, whatever it is, when it hits that sensor, that is the RAW photo. Then what that camera does is it will apply processing to it. Every camera applies processing to it, every single one. It's just a matter of how much processing and how good it is. And Apple is phenomenal at processing. They're getting beautiful photos out of a small little lens. We've seen it. They're just phenomenal at their processing. But what some people really want to do is they don't want Apple's processing on it. So what Apple introduced a few years ago was RAW. So now with RAW, what you're able to do is process it yourself. So you are going to go and do all the post-processing. A RAW file would not look like this at all. A RAW file would look bad. But all the detail is going to be in a RAW file. You just kind of have to pull it out manually. This is like what a professional photographer would do. With Pro RAW, Apple tried to strike a balance. They wanted to give the photographers the ability to make those fine adjustments with RAW, but they also apply their post-processing. And what I mean by post-processing is when the iPhone takes a photo, it's probably taken 20 photos. And actually, when the camera is open, it is constantly taking photos. That's why it gets warm when the camera is open. And then when you hit the shutter, what it does is it goes back and says, I need to grab the last 20 photos that I just took. And it combines them all together. And then there's your photo. So that's why it's called a Pro RAW. That's still doing all of that grabbing those 20 photos, putting them together, grabbing the high dynamic range, doing all their magic. And then what you're able to do is kind of take it a little bit further. So yeah, this is RAW, But right now, what I'm doing is I'm looking at it as a JPEG. The Photos app on the Mac is not a real good RAW. You really want to go to a third party. Darkroom is an app that you can get that works with RAW photos. The Photos app does work with it, but you're really going on a different level when you deal with RAW. So the photos are also huge. Generally speaking, I am what I call a hobbyist photographer. I love photography, and I don't shoot in RAW, just because it would just eat up the space. It gets pretty hairy, and that's where you need Lightroom.
Well, I had some experience with.
You there? I think you dropped out. Or did I drop out?
No, it's me.
Okay.
I've got an iPhone 14 Pro Max.
Yeah.
And took one picture specifically, on the screen. You could put a RAW.
Yeah.
And it turned out great.
Yeah.
I'm a hobbyist. I don't know how it did it, but it just like, wow, it just did it. Of course, I think it's supposed to be, we get into the high weeds of how many megapixels and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, it worked great.
I'll give you this. If for anyone that is that likes photography on the iPhone and has like an iPhone 14 or 13 Pro or whatever, check out Halide, HALIDE. It's a camera app. Isn't it great?
It is. It's amazing.
It's just, it basically takes Apple's camera. Apple's camera is built for a consumer, for most everything, and it's a good camera. Halide allows us hobbyists, amateur photographers or whatever to actually go and, we can actually pick where that focus is and all that. I mean, it turns it into a manual camera, which is real fun for us people that like that kind of thing. So,
Right.
Deanna,
yeah.
Odd question to ask you, but I have, and I talked to you months ago about this. I have thousands of family slides, and I'm working with my brother and sister on saving them and whatever, and they have Macs as well. I know in the iWorks you can collaborate and do things together. You can't do that in Photos, can you? Can multiple people edit at this time?
Nope.
So we would have to save it, and then they would look at it, and
Yep.
And we always could revert original and go do it that way, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Carol asked, what does noise mean in the terms of a photo? So noise in the terms of a photo is, let me see if I have one. In a low light photo, I'll just go to my library here. The camera can't pick up the detail, so what it will do, this might not be a good one. This is called pixel peeping, by the way. You're going to see like little specks. That's noise. This is, like I say, the iPhone is really pretty good. But you're going to see little specks in here, and that is noise. Let's see if I have an older one that might have it, because they've just gotten real super good at it. I need a darker photo. And it wouldn't be that, wouldn't be that. Those are videos. Let's try this one. Yeah. Kind of hard to see. But basically, if you ever looked at a photo up close and all of a sudden you see all these dots in it, that's noise. Basically, it's noise, like a static, like a television that is not tuned to a station. You know, we're all old enough to know remember what that is like. That's noise. And what you're going to see in a low light photo is that noise. Just very subtle, but and that's just because the lens can't, the camera can't pick it up. So what it does is it adds noise. I can see a little bit there. You know, it's just, that's what's called noise. And what you can do is you can reduce that noise, but when you do that, you don't want to do too much because it makes it look fake. So there's a balance there of, taking a little bit of the noise out. That's what Apple's battling with. They constantly are like, we need to take the noise out, but you don't want to take too much noise out because then it doesn't look natural anymore. Some of this stuff is just natural. All right, let's see what I have next here. All right, now we're going to take a look at adding filters to photos and videos. This is pretty simple, let's see here. We're going to go to my albums here and filter. So this is when we were on the Durango and Silverton Railway over in Colorado. And this is a color photo, but really, I think it'd be kind of cool if it was a black and white photo. Well, this is where we can go and add a filter to it. Or maybe what I'd like to do is just change the color so it looks like an older photograph. That's what filters do. And basically all we have to do is go back to our edit, and then we have to go over to filters. And you're going to see all of the filters here. Now it looks pretty simple. I turn it on, I click on Vivid Warm. You can see that it's a little Vivid Warm, like an old photo from the 70s. And that's basically all there is to it. If I go to dramatic, a little more dramatic, I can go to a silver tone. I like noir myself, but we can actually do more with this. We can adjust how much of this filter is being applied. So if you look here, you're going to see that we have a little slider here, and now we can see that we have just a little bit of color in there. Let's revert to the original, and let's go back over to Vivid Warm. That's a little bit too much for me. It's a little too warm. So again, we go over here. You can see it's applying 100%. That's why it's too warm. All I do is just drag this over. And now we can see it's a little warmer. And if I click on compare, we can see it's just a little bit warmer. So that's, like I say, filters are pretty simple, but a lot of people miss that. What we can do is go and adjust this. Now, what you can't do is you can't apply one filter on top of another. So you can only apply one filter at a time. But that's basically all there is to applying filters. Just select your filter, and then you can go and select how much of that filter you want to apply, and you're done. You can make adjustments to it, and then apply the filter as well. So you can combine adjustments with filters, but we can't combine multiple filters. Any questions on filters? Told you that would be pretty quick, but most people miss this little trick where you can go and adjust how much filter you want to apply. All right. Let's here.
Edits is showing up on the sidebar. How do you do that on the sidebar? See that?
Oh, I made these. I made an album. It's called edits, and I put the photos in here just so I know which. So it's all manual.
Okay.
Yep. That would be cool if it created smart albums where it'd be like, this photo needs have this, and I can go in there and do that, but nope. All right. Let's take a look at cropping and straightening photos. Towards the end, I'm going to take a look at how we can do a lot of this stuff in videos too. So don't forget we can do them in our videos. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Straighten, this album that I created. And we're going to take a look at this photo. You're going to see, we'll first take a look at how we straighten. Pretty simple. Essentially what we need to do is go back over to our edit, and we go over to crop. Remember I said that straightening is under crop. So I go to crop here. And now all we need to do is just go over to the right here, and we just drag this to the left or right. Apple used to have where it would automatically straighten it, but I think they took that out a couple of years ago. I don't think Auto will do it. Yeah, doesn't do it anymore. But basically all you have to do is just drag this where you want. Now, you're going to notice that there's going to be little grids here. You'll want to use that to straighten the horizon or whatever you're trying to straighten. So what I can do is I can take that and use those little lines there, and now we can see that it's pretty straight. Click on Done. It's good to go. Let's take a look at this one here. This one's just a little bit crooked. For some odd reason on this trip, I probably had one too many beers. But basically, just kind of take it and you go like that. And there it is. And now what I'm able to do, it looks a little dark. I could go over here and make adjustments. I can go auto enhance and see if it doesn't. There it is. And now it's nice and straight. On top of that, we can also skew it. So this is taken, if we have a photo like this, or let's, okay, so when we straighten a photo, it's doing this. When we skew it, what we're doing is if this was facing towards me, let's see, I'll turn like this. Here, let's do this. All right. So if I go like that, when I show you these, this is what I'm calling skew, vertical and horizontal. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking the top and going towards me, or I'm taking the bottom and going towards me. I can't bend my arm that way. So that's what I'm doing. Or what I'm doing is I'm going like this, the left side or the right side. That is what these vertical and horizontal do. So when we take a look at this, let's take a look at a different photo here. This one here. This is over in Cape Canaveral. And I go to crop. And I go to vertical. If we look at that building, you're going to see that the top is coming in towards me and the pillars are going out towards me. It's changing the skew of it. Now it also does change, how it looks and all that, but basically that's what you're doing. And then with horizontal, you can see that it's kind of, and actually, let's see if I can zoom out here a little bit. Oops. Edit.
Hi, Alan.
Can.
I'm on a Zoom call right now on a camera thing. Can I call you back? Hello?
Looks like I'll mute everyone and just unmute yourself if you have a question. You gotta do this every while. There we go. All right. So that, that's basically what the vertical and horizontal do. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are case uses for it, but I've never used it in my my thing. We can also flip it. So this will just flip it. Now, if you had writing on here, it would also reverse that writing. So you're flipping it. So if you have if you're taking a picture of a sign or anything like that, and you flip it, just be aware. Let's see if I have one here. Right here, we'll go with Harley. If I flip this, it's going to flip it. So just be aware that it's a nice trick if you need to have something point in a different direction, to get for eye movement and things like that. But just be aware that when you do flip it, it does flip any writing.
Dan, if I want to do editing on, and I talked to you about this before, on 35mm slides, really old slides, I think photos really not going to cut it. I need to get Lightroom or something more.
Because with Lightroom, what you're able to do is if you have a lot of slides, you can automate things and it'll do it. And Lightroom, that's what it's designed for. Absolutely.
And repair slides and kind of work on the old slides.
Yep. I would recommend. All right, let's take a look at cropping, the last part of our cropping and straightening. We're going to go to a different photo here. Let's see here, straighten. Let's go with this one here. All right, so this is up here out over Cape Canaveral area. And, what I basically did here is, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the rule of thirds, but with the rule of thirds, what you want to do is you divide a photo into thirds, and you want to put the subject in those like a tic-tac-toe board. So when I go to edit here, and we go to crop, and if I crop this, you're going to see my little tic-tac board there. So essentially what you want to do is you kind of want to have the, your focus points on those, where those lines are. If my horizon should be on the bottom one possibly, or maybe on the top one. A good way of looking at this, what I was taught is look at most paintings, world-known paintings. When you look at a landscape painting, you hardly ever see the horizon in the middle of the painting. What you see is the horizon below it, and you're looking at all the sky. Or what you do is you see the horizon in the top third, and then you're looking at all of the grass or whatever it may be. So it's always good to look at how other people do things. And essentially, rule of thirds are very popular for photographers. And what we're able to do is crop and use those rule of thirds. Now, when you first crop a photo, what it will do is it's called freeform. By default, it's freeform. What I'm able to do is just go in here and just, I can crop it any way I want. And once I crop it, I can move that photo within how I want it. So this is just freeform. Well, I'm not a huge fan of freeform. What I would like to do is crop it to where it's nice on an iPhone, or maybe want to make it for Instagram, it would be square, things like that. Well, if we look over here, what we're able to do is crop it to a certain shape. So I was going to put this on Instagram. I'm going to revert to the original. We go over to square, and now you're going to see that the aspect ratio is locked. It's locked to square. So I get to the size that I want. It crops it. Now, two-step process, I move the photo where I want it. And I'm going to put it right about there using my rule of thirds. And let's say I wanted to crop this for an iPhone. Well, an iPhone is 16, I think it's 16 by 9, but it's vertical. So I click the vertical, and there it is. Now what I need to do is I need to reposition it. So I just click this, and I take it, and I reposition it. And I use my rule of thirds. You're going to see the water is right at the bottom of the tic-tac-toe line there. And now I have a nice photograph of that. That would look good on an iPhone. If I want to make this into a movie, 16 by 9 is a standard size for a movie. Maybe I'm going to put this in a movie or something like that. I can go back over to crop, 16 by 9, go to horizontal, and I need to zoom out just a little bit. I just drag this out. I position it how I want. We're going to go with right about there. Again, water along the horizon or along that tic-tac-toe line. There it is. I could actually move it over. There we go. So there you can kind of see what the difference is. So there's down the center and all that. Yeah, it looks good and all that, but watch. I know this beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? But when you do use that rule of thirds and you move it over there, and now I'm lining it up here, it brings that photo in. We can see the pier and that kind of thing. So that's where the rule of thirds kind of come in and how you can use it with cropping.
Dan, you got me nervous now. So if when I take a photo and I'm sending to someone who has an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook, do I need to do 3 photos or what?
Nope. No, you don't have to do 3 photos. Well, I'm old school. I like to have photos landscape, but I know that all of my friends and family, when I send a photo to them, guess how they look at it? Like this. Even though it's like this. Nobody, including myself, rotates the phone. So simple to do, but we just don't do it. So, essentially what you're seeing, if you ever ask anyone to take a picture, somebody that kind of knows what they're doing, like when we go to Disney or we went actually to Meyer Gardens. It's a garden over here in Grand Rapids. And somebody took our picture. They had the Christmas trees from around the world. And basically what they do is they take it like this. And then you watch them. Somebody that knows what they're doing, they go like that. And basically you have 2 photos. Now you could crop it like what I'm doing, but it doesn't necessarily work well in some cases. It works great for a photo like this, but like you said, if it could be that you need to take 2 photos. We'll go with, this photo. This is when we were ziplining over in the Smoky Mountains. Now, this one I think will be good for 16 by 9. Yeah, that's pretty good, but it probably, actually, it's not too bad, but you can see it's cutting out the bridge, kind of thing. So, if somebody, whoever took this would have gone this way and then that way, I would have had the best of both worlds. So yes, it means that 2 photos, you know. Unfortunately.
And some people do actually print these and send them someplace and put them in frames, you know.
Yeah.
So you have to do that.
Yep. All right. So that is cropping and things like that. Let's go on to editing live photos. We're almost done. Let's see here. We got editing videos, and then I'll just give you a couple little tips. Editing photos. So a live photo, for those of you who do not know, what the iPhone can do when it takes a photo is it can take basically take a 3-second video. And here's Beth. She Dutch dances. We have a Tulip Time festival here. And you're going to see that it is live. And there it is. So it's about 3 seconds, I think. And it's her kicking. So what you're able to do when you look at this on an iPhone, you can tap on the screen and kind of just see her in action. Now, it's not necessarily a video. And we've probably all seen it when somebody swipes through a photo, all of a sudden you'll see them move a little bit. That's because they took it as a live photo. But live photos do have a good purpose. And what I use them for is like something like this. This is I would call an action shot. What I would like to do is get a photo of her where she kicks high. You can see she kicks high at a split second there. Now what I could do is I could take a bunch of, what do they call that, bursts, and then select the burst that I want. But I think a live photo actually works really good for something like this because this is all I have to do. I just have to go and take the photo and it gets her. Great. Now, when I go to edit, what I'm able to do, you're going to see because it's a live photo, I have all the frames down here. What I'm able to do is take this and drag it. And there it is. That's the photo that I want. So now you're going to see it says make key photo. When I make this the key photo, that is now the photo you're going to look at. Now this is still a live photo. I don't want it to be a live photo. I want it to be a regular photo. I just used live photo to get me to this particular photo. I don't want it to do this little thing. Well, what we can do when we go back over to edit is we can go down here, and when I click on this little turn off live photo, basically it turns it off, and now we do not have live on here. This is just a standard photo as far as photos is concerned. I can't view the video. It's just a standard photo. So this is a great way if you, someone is, playing soccer or, doing some kind of an action thing. What you're able to do is, just grab those 3 seconds of when you anticipate something's going to happen, and then you can kind of go in there. Of course, you can always revert back to the original. You can go in there and select where you want your photo to be. You turn it off. It's done. Another thing you can do with live photos, we're going to go to this photo here. You can create long exposures. Now, I did not hold the camera to, for those of you I'm not sure what a long exposure is, you're going to see that waterfall looks a little wispy. Let's go to, there it is, another one. These are what is called a, there's Tequanum Falls up in the UP. It's wispy. This is what is called a long exposure. So essentially what I did is I took a live photo of the waterfall. So there it is. You want to hold the camera as still as possible. But that's basically what I did. I just took a live photo. Now, being that it's water, what I can do is go over to the lower left here, and I can select if I want it to loop, bounce, or long exposure. So loop will turn it into a continuous waterfall. You're going to see it doesn't stop. It's just looping. So this waterfall is this is great. If you do not have people in the background or anything like that, it just kind of looks like you could use just as a running video, kind of thing. No one would know that this is a 3-second video. It just keeps looping. If you wanted to get cute, you could bounce it. So now it's going to go back and forth. You can kind of see that. That gets annoying after a while to me. And then you have long exposure, my favorite. And now you can see it makes just a nice long exposure. With a regular camera, what you used to have to do is hold that shutter open for about 6 seconds or whatever, and then it would do what it needs to do to get this. Well, now with an iPhone, with their computational photography, they are able to create a long exposure just by doing that. And then, of course, I go and turn it off. And now what I have here is just a nice photo. It is not a live photo. It won't play when I swipe over to it or anything like that. It's just a nice long exposure photo. So live photos can be more than just capturing a 3-second video. You can actually do quite a bit with them, including these special effects and catching action shots, and then just turn the live photo off. And then, you got yourself a good photo of the key moment, per se. Any questions on that?
Yes, Dan, do you turn off the live photo aspect after you've done this adjustment in order to get rid of the extra pieces?
No,
so that
it doesn't
it's
get
not
rid of the, it just
historical?
it doesn't get rid of the extra pieces, it just turns them off. That's all. So you can always revert to the original, so it's not going to delete anything or anything like that. It's not going to save space. Not going to, these things don't take up a lot of space, but it just turns it off so it's not playing when you go and swipe it on the phone. We've seen that where that play or whatever just for those 3 seconds when somebody just wants, look at this photo, and then all of a sudden you see them getting ready to take the photo. That's because they took a live photo. It took 1.5 seconds before and 1.5 seconds after. So what you're able to do is turn that off. So
Thanks.
Dan, I assume that during live photos, you have to have the iPhone set for videos, yeah?
No, the iPhone has to be set for live photos. So there's a setting on the iPhone where you can, let's see here, do I plug in my iPhone here and see if I can get it. There's a setting on the camera. I'll show you my iPhone here. All right. Hopefully I'll show you my iPhone here. Yep. It wants to show you my iPad. That's not what I want. Hold on here a second. I'll show you where the setting is on the camera. I just have to get my right camera right here. Let's see here. This is this one. And here. There we go. A little off. Okay. All right. So you're looking, this is, just my camera. I'm just holding it here. But if we look in the upper right-hand corner, I'm using iOS 16. You're going to see that we have a little live photo up there at the top right. It is turned off. It has a line on it. When I tap on it, now it's going to take a live photo. I tap on it again. Now it's going to not take a live photo. So if you are at a place where, you're a waterfall, a fountain, anything like that, you want to try around, play around with this auto exposure, turn live photo on, take the photo, and then from there you're able to, and I'll talk about next week how we can do this on the iPhone. Or if you're taking an action shot of, maybe a child, grandchild, anything like that, then you can take a live photo of them and then select the frame that you want. You do not take a video. I was in the photo of the camera.
Yeah, my iPhone doesn't have that feature. It must be very recent.
No, it's been around for a while. Make sure that, let's go to my camera again. So I'm looking
I
at,
have it. I found it.
okay, yeah, you have to make sure you're looking at photo here. And then, yeah.
Need to look at photos, and I didn't. Yeah, thank you.
Dan, does Photos still do date, time, stamp, location?
Does it, it's still, it records the location.
Yeah, and location and date. So
Yeah,
I can look
yeah.
at the photo
Mm-hmm.
and put location or find it on a map and all that.
Yep,
right?
yep, still does all that. Absolutely.
As long as locations is
Turned on. Yes. Thank you, Steve.
You bet.
All right. Let's take a look at videos. So we can basically do the same, all of this stuff, for the most part, all of this stuff with video. So I'm going to go to my videos here. We go to media types. Now these are albums that Apple creates. I did not create these. So we can see all of our videos by clicking on videos. And this is of an apple, we're making apple cider over at a friend's house. So it's just a little video here where it does its thing. And when I go up to, well, first of all, you're going to see that I can rotate it 90 degrees. I also have auto enhance, and it'll auto enhance the entire video. And when I go to edit, I have adjust. I have a lot of the same features here. Not everything, but you're going to see I can't retouch. That's grayed out. I can't retouch it. I can't reduce red eye in a video. So it doesn't do everything, but for the most part, it does. I can adjust the saturation, the color, the light. We have our highlights, our shadows, levels, curves. I can even apply vignette to the entire video. So we do have a lot of those same options in photos. I can apply filters. And again, I can adjust how much. I can also crop. So if this was for the iPhone, I can go 16:9, bing, bing. And now this gets a little more tricky because as you move your camera around, I'm pretty good. You can see I didn't move my camera around too much, but if you move your camera around, this won't work for you because it's, you can't say follow this apple. That's Final Cut Pro trickery. But if you just hold your camera still, you can crop in there and basically change the aspect ratio, and there it is. We can also revert back to the original, and we can trim videos. So when I go over here, you're going to see that I have all of my frames down at the bottom. And let's say that, this video is a minute long, I think, a minute and some odd long. It's a little too long. Well, what you're able to do is take these ends here and you can crop it or trim it. I'm sorry, this is called trimming. So now what I have here is just this short little video. And when I save it, I can save it to this video. This is where the lossless ends. If I save this video, it is going to crop this video and I will no longer have that large video. So remember how I said that the Photos app is lossless? This is the one exception. If you save the video, it is going to trim those out and that's it, it's done. But if you want to save the original clip, you can save it as a new clip. So then you have the long video and then you have the short video. So you have two different versions of it. That's basically all there is to photos, to videos. You essentially have a lot of the same. I can compare, the original to the modified version, edited version. So you can see it has a lot of the same features that we have with our photos. The last thing I'm going to do is just it's going to be more of a wrap up of, just a few little tips or just repeating a couple of things here. So anyone have any questions on videos? All right. So when I go to, let's see here, should come up here, and that is not what I wanted. Tips, here we go, and there we go. All right. So basically, what we have to remember is editing is lossless outside of that last part with videos. Any changes that you make to your photo, you can always revert to the original. So you don't have to worry about, doing something. Just revert it back to the original. Most edits can be applied to both photos and videos, as you saw. Now, if you want to have let's say you apply edits to something and you still want to have the original, basically maybe you want to have a black and white copy and a regular copy an edited copy, unedited copy, then what you're going to do is you're going to make a duplicate of it. So I'm going to go back over to my Mac, and we're going to go back over to my Durango and Silverton, because these are just great for like black and white kind of thing. And we got somebody on a stagecoach. So this would be really good as a black and white photo. Whoops, you can see my, let me get rid of that. There we go. Okay. There we go. So you can basically, this stage, I want to turn this into a black and white, but I also want to keep this one. I want to keep both of them. So what you're going to have to do then is duplicate it. So I basically hold down the control key and I click, and you're going to see duplicate. Now what I can do is apply my edits to this one. Let's make this one a black and white. And let's go and add a vignette, my favorite thing. Looks like a nice black and white photo, but also I still have the color. I'm just going back and forth between them. There's my black and white, and there's my color. I could go to this one, and let's go and make this one dramatic. So now I have a dramatic photo. Make it a little bit smaller. I have a dramatic or black and white photo, and then I have a dramatic photo. So you can, basically apply, do two different edits. The only thing you have to do is you just have to make sure that you duplicate the photo.
Dan, like in Keynote, could I take that stagecoach and horses, take it out of that background it is, 'cause I see a card behind there, and put it into a different setting?
Let's see here. So yeah, let's see if we can lift the photo out of here.
I really want to make it looking old, like it really was taken.
Yeah, no, basically what you'd have to do for something like that is go in and crop it and take this. There you go.
Yeah, you have to do it that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
was
And
thinking
I
like
did a
you-
freeform crop there, so normally I wouldn't do a freeform crop. I would have done something else, but yep, that's basically how you would do that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, let's go back here.
Hey,
You can
Dan, can you hear me, Dan?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You can compare photo. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you go up into images, you can also go down and do photo, put in the top where images were a minute ago, right down, duplicate one photo.
Yep.
Keep going, right there. That's what I do, that I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. You can see my screen again. Sorry.
But I'm just thinking that's another way to.
Yep. Another thing that you can do is, this is new in macOS Ventura, you can copy
Anyway,
edits.
I just added that.
You can copy edits. So let's say that I like this, this black and white, what I did here. Maybe I made a lot of adjustments to it and I like this. I want to apply these same edits to another photo. Well, all you have to do is just click on it and you're going to see this is new in Ventura. Copy the edit. Excuse me. Copy the edits. And tickle in my throat. I control click and let's see here. Maybe I have to edit it. I should be able to paste the edits. Oh, no, it's not. Maybe I didn't copy it. Copy edits. Paste edits. And now it just applied. You can see it applied a vignette to it. It applied the same filter to it. I can go over here. Like, yep, I like that one. Sorry. Copy. Paste. Give it a more Western feel to it. So
It'd
if
be good
you,
if you have a series of photographs, like in an album or something. You want them all to have the same
Yeah.
look.
mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see if we can do it to multiple. So we're going to go with, I'm just going to select these here. I don't know if we can do this. This is, I have 4 of them selected. I paste edits. There it is. It worked. So we can even apply it, multiple. So if I wanted to, make all these black and white, I can do that just by selecting them and pasting the edits. So, all right. That is basically what I have here. Let's see. Let's go on to my thing here.
I guess the next prize, you want the class to go out in the field and try this out, right?
That's right. Yes. Anyone that is still with me that is not a member, you can use a coupon code CLASS. You get 25% off. And anyone that is with me and they're paying the full price, this does allow for upgrades as well. So next week I will be talking basically about the same thing on the iPad and iPhone. We have a lot of the same features, not everything, and things kind of move around, especially on the iPhone. So, basically we're going to be looking at the same thing. It should go a little bit quicker, but we're going to focus on the iPad and iPhone with next week's class. And, of course, as always, thank you for your support. So, all right.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
Thank you,
Anyone have
Dan.
any lasting questions?
Yeah. So most of this is transferable to doing it on the iPhone.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It might be a different location.
Yep. You're not going to be it doesn't have, I don't think the iPhone has red eye. It doesn't have, as many adjustments, but it does have quite a few. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've been with you since 2012, and when you do the Mac and or iPad or whatever, if you can find just a couple minutes, maybe to share just photo tips, some general tips that you have learned by taking all these photos, and maybe what to do and what not to do. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
To be a better photographer.
Yeah, I actually created a camera, but I wasn't happy with it. I went out and I created about 10, 15 different lessons, but it didn't turn out as good as I wanted it to, so I scrapped it. But I'm still trying to figure out a way that I can do that. I was just thinking about that the other day.
I get that dumb thumb, right? And like every other photograph, you see my thumb,
Yeah, right.
Dan, may I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
I have an iPhone 8 Plus, and I've always been annoyed because my pictures don't fill the screen when I look at them horizontally. So I was just playing around here, and I found that if I open a photo that I took with my iPhone and crop it to 16:9, it then fills the screen. Do I have to do this with every single photo?
Yeah, the screen, the 16, that's the problem with all these aspect ratios, and even with televisions. You go to a movie, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, I also follow a lot of I love movie making kind of thing. And if you look, you'll see that different movies have different aspect ratios. Sometimes the curtains will close this far, and then other times you'll see them go this far. And then other times you'll see a black and above and beyond. And same thing for television. You could be watching Dune on TV, and it's going to have a black bar across the top and a black. Everything's different.
Is there a way to set your iPhone?
No, because even the iPhones have different aspect ratios. The iPhone with a home button has a different aspect ratio than the iPhone with Face ID. So no, there isn't.
Okay. Okay, I'll just have to individually do each one. Okay, thanks.
Or just double tap on it, and it'll zoom in to fill the screen, and you'll find. Then you don't have to worry about all that. So,
like when you watch the news and they have iPhone or cell phone videos, they have the blurred side and whatever.
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it.
So I wish I get it, but I wish Apple would disable although I do it, take a video like this. I'm old school, so that's what I want.
Dan, could you say it again, please? Technique you mentioned for making the iPhone sort of manual, please.
Can you say that again?
You mentioned a technique I have forgotten the name, of
Khalid?
of adjusting the iPhone to remove a lot of the automatic manipulations of a photo.
Mm-hmm. That
Say again that word, please.
that is it's called Halide, Halide. Somebody put in the chat Halide Mark II Pro camera. And I'm a huge, I think it's great. I use it probably 25%. The iPhone camera, the camera app that comes with the iPhone, as Apple does, you want to take a photo, boom, take a photo. It does a great job. You know, it's something that you can very reliably rely on, if that makes sense. But if you want to kind of play around, the Halide app will allow me to, let's see here, Halide. See if I can show you here. I'm going to unplug. Do I have it on this phone? I don't think I have it on this phone. I should install it on this phone so I can, oh, I do. Okay. All right. So this is, you're going to see it here shortly. That's the Halide. I have the upgrade. Okay. So this is the Halide app, and you're going to see it doesn't look that much different, but you know I can add the grid. So I don't know if you can see it on there, but there is a there you can kind of see it. You'll see it here shortly. A little delay there. There it is. Now you can kind of see that tic-tac-toe pattern. But you're going to see. I'll just give you one example of it. Let me get rid of my. Thank you for your support. You're going to see that there's an AF in the lower left corner. That's the autofocus. With Halide, what I'm able to do is set a manual focus. I just take this slider. You're going to see it here shortly. Hopefully. There's a little bit of a delay there. Come on. There it is. And basically what I'm able to do is focus, you know, set the focus manually, something you can't do on the camera app on the iPhone. You know, so it just offers more manual settings, you know, that kind of thing to play around with. So it's not a free app, but it's highly regarded by a lot of people. A lot of photographers use it. There are other ones out there, Pro Camera, but and I've tried a lot of them, and I've stuck with Halide. So they're the ones that do, when Apple comes out with a new iPhone, what Halide does is they do a breakdown of the camera. They actually tear it down and do measurements, and they like, well, it's really good here. And they'll even say that the iPhone 14, the camera itself is not as good as what it was in the 13, the camera itself. But the computational photography is far better. So, you know, they will kind of see where Apple is kind of going with this, you know, kind of thing. And they're great. They do it once a year. Kind of neat. So, all right. Let's call that a wrap. My wife was waiting for me at bowling.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan.
Sure.
Yes, I'm going to
You're right,
stop recording. I should have the